Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hello and welcome to The Print. A lot has been said, a lot has been written, and a lot has been read on the current standoff between India and China. However, today we have with us the man who won us the last battle that India fought, that is the Kargil in 1999. Yes, I'm talking about General VP Malik. Welcome to The Print, General Malik.
Thank you, Sinesh.
Sir, as I mentioned, this crisis has been booming since early May itself. Now we've already entered the 7 months of standoff. In your sense of where do you think this crisis is headed?
Sinesh, the damage that has been done this time by deliberately intruding across the line of actual control at many places in eastern Ladakh and also occupying some disputed areas, I think it has affected the whole range of India-China relations. It has brought back memories of 1962 to people in India. It has also, I would say, whitewashed all the agreements on confidence building measures that we had from 1993 onwards. There were so many of them, agreements that were signed. It has also reminded people of the collusion that is going on between in Pakistan and China.
Yeah.
So it has destroyed the trust. If I can use that word, trust is a major item between the two countries, particularly when they have a disputed boundary or disputed line of actual control. And so that is the damage which has been done. But having said that, I feel that although our forces are now eyeball to eyeball position, I don't expect that it will escalate to a conventional war.
Okay.
I have a feeling that this confrontation will carry on for quite some time while the negotiations are going on. So while the negotiations are going on, the forces on both sides are likely to remain on an alert, and there may be some de-escalation, which is possible. But even then, even after de-escalation, it will be a situation of no war, no peace.
So you're saying even if a de-escalation does take place eventually, it will still be a situation of no war, no peace.
Yes, that's right, because we have lost the confidence in each other and there is no trust left. So, that takes long time to build.
Yeah, and that is true. There's a huge trust deficit that has now come up between India and China, and this is all due to Chinese actions and not Indian actions. So when this whole crisis started in May, I feel that Indians were taken by surprise by the sudden turn of events. Chinese were exercising as per the schedule. They suddenly took a turn and entered into the northern banks of the Pangong, so in Galwan as well as in the hot spring and the Gogra area. Now, the Indians were taken by surprise. It took us some time to recalibrate and give a response. However, a lot has changed now. So how do you see India's response to the Chinese aggression, sir?
So first, when you mentioned about we were taken by surprise, I think there was some intelligence and surveillance failure. Because if the surveillance is there and there are some intelligence reports, then you should not be taken by surprise.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about the formations which had come from outside and they were carrying out training in Tibet. There were two large formations, mind you.
Exactly.
And they were the ones who were used for carrying out these intrusions. That also shows poor assessment on the part of intelligence agencies. That assessment should have been there, that these can be used against us on the line of actual control also. So I have mentioned these because there were some weaknesses that have come out, and I think we have drawn some lessons from it. But as far as our own actions are concerned, after we got to know about these intrusions, then the actions have been fairly good between the Air Force and the Army. There has been good cooperation, and the mobilization that has taken place was very good. And the response that we had, whether it was in Galwan Valley or elsewhere, has been good. And particularly good has been the response of occupying the Kailash range, which has really turned the table. And as you know, Kailash range, which oversees or which looks over the Spangur Gap and Moldo position, and even their line of communications coming from the North Bank. So that has been a good action.
So, for the viewers, when he's talking about the Kailash range, General Malik is referring to the action that the Indian forces took on the intervening night of 29th and the 30th August on the southern banks of Pangong. So General, I agree with everything that you say. But what do you think should be the way forward as far as India is concerned with China?
Sinesh, I would like to divide your question into two parts.
Okay.
One would be on the political and diplomatic front, and the other would be on the military front. Now, as far as our political and diplomatic front is concerned, we should continue our negotiations. We should continue to talk to them. While our short-term objective would be status quo ante of April to 2020.
Yeah.
Whether we do it diplomatically or military diplomacy, which is happening even now.
Yeah.
But our long-term objective here should be of making the Chinese agree to delineation of the line of actual control on the maps. Because unless that is done, these kind of intrusions and the kind of small action that take place along the line of actual control, they might continue. So delineation will prevent that. That is as far as the political and the diplomatic front is concerned.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that these talks will continue for a long time, and we have to be patient by negotiating with the Chinese. As far as the military front is concerned, we have to remain alert. There should be no great hurry to pull out our forces because of the winter or because of any other situation that we have to look at the Chinese military threat from that side. So the alertness should continue, and we should also continue to develop our road communication and other communications for the benefit of our locals in that area, as well as for faster mobilization, both during summer as well as winter.
So you've stressed multiple times that we should not be in a hurry to withdraw our troops. Is this something that you're fearing, that India might be in a hurry to withdraw the troops?
No, I don't think so. But the pressure will start building up after some time. At the moment, it doesn't look like. I have a feeling that the army is quite firm, and army has quite firm on keeping our troops. And the troops are also are not seen wanting in this. They are also quite sturdy. We have seen them earlier in such situation, and they're prepared to go through all these handicaps. But, the pressure because of the economic situation, because of these pressure might start building up. So that is why I mentioned this.
So the negotiations around the Chinese were initially very focused on the fact that India should withdraw from the southern banks. The way Indians outsmarted the Chinese in August is something that really surprised them. So in your view, while the negotiations is on, the Chinese seems to have suggested that the Indians should withdraw from the southern banks, and we will also withdraw from the northern banks. They will go beyond Finger 8. But however, the area between Finger 4 and Finger 8 will become a no-go area. How do you see this kind of disengagement taking place where we pull out from the southern banks?
Look, firstly, I must say that my own feeling is that we should not be talking in segments when we are negotiating with the Chinese. We shouldn't talk in segments of Pangong Tso area or Galwan Valley area or Depsang area. If we want lasting peace along the LAC, then we should be taking up the whole our eastern Ladakh border together. Because if we have advantage in the Pangong Tso area, we are at a disadvantage at many other places also.
True.
So I think firstly we should try and resolve this whole thing on the entire eastern Ladakh front, which is from, let's say, from Depsang to coming down to Chumar in the south. And once we have resolved that in our negotiations and we've come to some kind of commitment from both sides, then we should carry out the implementation segment-wise. That will have to be segment-wise. So we should not be in a hurry to only to give away what advantage that we have and accept some less advantageous positions on the northern bank.
So basically, you're saying India should be absolutely cautious while talking to China. It should not be limited to just sector-wise. It should be the entire thing, and we should not give up on our deployment on the southern bank so easily.
Exactly, Snesh.
So one of the area that you mentioned and is the Depsang plains, and many of us we feel that the Depsang is a major factor. Now I agree. I have reported on this myself, that the issue in Depsang actually dates back to prior to what happened in May. It goes back to actually 2013. There have been issues. How do you see the Depsang plains, sir? How important is it for India? And what happens tomorrow if the Chinese just continue to occupy the Depsang plains?
Look, Depsang plains is an important area. As you know, it is on the ancient trade route going from Leh, Ladakh to Central Asia via this Depsang plain, Karakoram, and then Xinjiang area.
Yeah.
And that is toward the north. Yeah. And on the northwest and the west, you have the Shaksgam Valley, which was ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963. And further and to the west, we have the Siachen Glacier. So it's a tri-junction area between Pakistan, India, and China. And Daulat Beg Oldie, which is in this area, is held by us. Karakoram Pass also is at the moment held by us, at least from our side. So it's an important area, both geographically as well as strategically. And therefore, we have to defend that. Unfortunately, we did not have good communication, ground communication to this area till recently. Yeah. Now that we have got the road going from Darbuk, Shiok, Daulat Beg Oldie up to Karakoram side, but that also, although it's a good road, but the fact is that runs along the line of actual control at a number of places and it becomes vulnerable. Yeah. So I think we have to work out another route via the Sasedla. And also we have to keep our troops active in the area of Daulat Beg Oldie and Depsang Plain.
So, we of course have a division which is looking after the entire the eastern Ladakh side. But however, the big concern now is that, because of this, India will now be committed to deployment of additional troops. Now, I've spoken to a number of people in the establishment, and they say that, Snehesh, even if not another div, but at least you will have a brigade level additional strength that would be eventually pumped into Ladakh. Do you agree with this, sir? And how helpful it would be for India to maintain such a huge amount of number of soldiers in this particular front, sir?
Look, as far as our strength in Eastern Ladakh is concerned, It will depend upon the kind of threat that we envisage from the Chinese side. So yes, at the moment we have one division. In fact, at the moment we have deployed more than a division.
Yes.
We have a large forces in that area. Yeah. And the reduction in those forces from the present level of forces will all depend upon the Chinese threat that is envisaged. What is the total strength, how soon they can be deployed along the line of actual control, etc. So I don't think we can be in a hurry to withdraw our troops. At the moment also, it's difficult for me to give an assessment of the kind of troops, number of troops that are required. The second aspect said is about the logistics. It is difficult indeed to maintain troops in high altitude areas and in the kind of terrain that we have in Ladakh. But I think we are capable of doing it. And between the Air Force and the Army, they are already doing a great job. We should also continue to focus on the ground communication, development of roads, not only on one axis or two axes, but we are also now thinking in terms of having an axis which will remain open throughout the winter. So we should continue to work on that. And as I said, that the total strength required in that area will depend primarily on the Chinese threat.
On the Chinese threat. That's very true, General. You know, we've spoken about the Chinese threat. We've spoken about, you know, what lies ahead. No war, no peace kind of a scenario. However, you know, one thing that nobody has been able to answer, and it's something that even I keep wondering, and I raise this, is why has China acted now? You know, there was a Doklam standoff in 2017. Post the Doklam standoff, the two leaders had spoken about. There was a talk of the Wuhan spirit. You know, there were a lot of good interaction between the two leadership and even between the two militaries. And suddenly you have China doing this. Why, sir?
Look, many people think that the reason is the development of infrastructure that we are doing in eastern Ladakh, particularly the road going from Darbuk to Daulat Beg Oldi is being mentioned time and again. There also people are also talking about the statement made by our Home Minister in the Parliament regarding our right, our on the Aksai Chin Plain, etc. But that is not enough, I believe. We have to also look at it with what China has been doing in East Asia Sea, in East Asian region, or in South China Sea, or what it has suddenly developed its relation, the kind of relation that it has now developed with Australia on the adverse side. So if you look at the entire geopolitical as well as geostrategic situation, you find, which has happened about the same time, you know, within the last 1 year or 1.5 years. So then you realize that it is more than what they have done in India only. We are now looking at China's dream as enunciated by Xi Jinping. And I have a feeling that he is having described what he wants to do as a great power in Asia, his China dream. He is now implementing that. That is what we are seeing at the moment with the kind of aggressive action that they are taking, both at the military level as well as on the other fronts. And look at the way they have reacted to anybody calling them on Wuhan COVID situation, you know, and they are reacting in that manner, which reflects a lot of arrogance in China at the moment. Absolutely. So I think we should be looking beyond our own region. We should be looking at the entire geopolitical situation as far as China-India relations are concerned.
And sir, in this context, of course, we recently had the Malabar exercise that was held, in which you know, the so-called Quad countries, as they are now known, that is India, Japan, Australia, and the US, have come together. How important are these global alliances, and what is that India should keep in mind when, they become part of that such grouping, sir?
Look, firstly, I don't think we should call them alliances because we haven't, come to that kind of agreement at the moment. True. They remain strategic partners.
Yeah.
And with the kind of threat that China is posing in the recent months, recent years, not only on the borders with India, but elsewhere also, particularly with the kind of getting some harbors in different countries in the Indian Ocean, whether it is on the eastern side or on the western side. So people have to make sure that their shipping, which is where maximum trade takes place, that remains secure, and it is not affected by the occupation that the Chinese have. Chinese have occupied in South China Sea, for example.
Yeah.
So I think such strategic partnerships are important, and that is how Japan, Australia, India, and USA, they are carrying out these exercises, whether it is Malabar exercises. So that has become necessary, and it is all because of the Chinese aggressive actions, as well as their intent to take some harbors and to take some ports.
Yeah.
Whether it is Myanmar or it is Sri Lanka or Pakistan and beyond.
Yeah.
So that has become necessary, and I think it's a good thing that India has done by carrying out these exercises, Malabar. Here, I would also say that we've been carrying out exercise Milan with the countries in our neighborhood for a long time now.
Yes.
And that kind of cooperation, that kind of understanding with the navies of our neighborhood, neighboring countries, that is also important. So along with exercise Malabar, etc., we should continue to have these exercise that I mentioned with our exercise Milan with our neighboring countries on the eastern side.
Perfect, sir. I'll come to my last question, and I come back to the army. The fact is that over the years, we've been focused very much on Pakistan. Now, if you go through the history, if one goes through the history of the 1962 war, also at that time, also the government, the defense ministry, the armed forces was focused on Pakistan, missed out the big white elephant in the room. And so do you think that it is time now? Of course, the current Army Chief General Naravne, when he took over, had mentioned that he would like to focus on China. Is it now time to, redraw our war strategy, our actions, keeping China in mind and not just Pakistan or what happens in Kashmir?
Look, firstly, we have been talking as far as relations with China are concerned, being both competitive as well as cooperative.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the armed forces have been talking about the competitive part of it, but elsewhere in the Ministry of External Affairs and elsewhere, they've been talking more in terms of the cooperative part of it and looking at the trade and other economic functions between the two countries. But having said that, I do feel that, yes, we have to look after both the borders. So we have to look after both China border as well as on the Pakistan border. But between the two today, with the kind of strength that we have, with the kind of threat that we face at the moment, I think China front, the line of actual control, which remains unresolved and which has had so many problems in the recent years, that would take priority over our line of control and border with Pakistan.
Well, indeed, and I completely agree with you on this, sir. Thank you so much, General Malik, for speaking to the print. It's been a pleasure to have you on this show, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sunesh.
Thank you.